everybody, it's Uyak here, back another video. Overlord Season 4, Episode 5. I mean, in every single new episode, I'm starting to think that their main goal for the new Overlord season is to display some high quality simp behavior, because that's what seems to be happening on screen. But before we get into that, if you do enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for some more content. Let's get straight into it. Alright, so episode 5 opens up with a scene between Albedo and Demirge, where Albedo is essentially gaslighting Demirge, saying things like, you know, you're holding Ainz back and you can't comprehend his greatness. And didn't you have a plan to make the Empire a vassal state? He says, yes, it would have taken a month. But Ainz did it in a few days. She was essentially gaslighting him, right? And I find it quite hilarious how they assume that Ainz is this intelligent, powerful being because of their programming from the game, when in reality, we're watching the series, watching what goes on in Ainz's head. And this guy essentially is just basically doing whatever he feels is right at the moment, and somehow it's working out. I mean, it's working out. It's like King from One Punch Man. Everything he does works out due to luck, I guess you could say. But we can't ignore the fact that Ainz is a genius. Some of the things he does can only be considered genius. Now let's move on to the most important parts of this episode. Ainz develops this interest in the Dwarven Kingdom, and one of the lizard men have actually been to the Dwarven Kingdom. So he calls upon this lizard man to explain or show him the way to this Dwarven Kingdom. And while he's explaining, he asks Ainz questions like, are you really not going to harm the dwarves, and things like that. Things you really shouldn't be asking a ruler if you're a servant. And Cocytus basically says, watch your mouth, and he keeps getting progressively more annoyed with the lizard man. But then something out of the blue happens. Now, this was frankly uncalled for. All right, nobody saw this coming. Cocytus was never involved in these Shaltir Albedo contests to win Ainz love. I mean, Albedo is literally in Ainz bed every single night, smelling his scent. This girl is crazy. All right, she is more crazy than the OnlyFans subscribers. All right, I've put into detail on these OnlyFans subscribers, but she's even more crazy. The only thing she has in her mind is Ainz. So Cocytus coming out the blue saying something like, I want you to sit on me. What? Just randomly. I mean, I was completely, utterly blown away by the scene. I was not expecting those words to come out of Cocytus's mouth. And Ainz is there thinking in his head, wait, I mean, he was just as surprised as me, if we're going to be honest. He was not expecting this to come out of Cocytus' mouth. But he's like, you know, this is one of my better servants, and I actually appreciate his company, so I'm going to have to sit on him. Now, I don't understand that train of thought, but we're just going to blow past that real quick. So he sits on Cocytus, and immediately when he sits on him, he gets that suppression of feelings that happens when he got transferred over to this fantasy world. But in reality, it just looked like this man had an explosion, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, the excitement in his body let out. Let's just say that. So he sits down on Cocytus, and when he sits down on Cocytus, this man, Cocytus, asks him, who's a better seat, me or Shaltir? Because Ainz had to sit on Shaltir as a punishment, which wasn't really a punishment because she's a vampire, a masochist. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's weird. But he asked who's a better seat, and the scene cuts off. I'm going to break this down, all right? Cocytus's seat, the seat is nice and firm, right? It has the structure of a seat. Everything you'd want in a chair is there, right? This man is built on built. You can take the most built human alive, and he's not going to compare to Cocytus. So Cocytus, if we're being honest, is probably a $3,000, $10,000 range chair on Amazon, I'd say, versus Shaltir, which is, I mean, she's insanely strong too, but if we look at the frame of Shaltir, there ain't no way that's a comfortable seat. I mean, she ain't got no sort of support. If you sit on Shaltir for the whole day, let's say you're doing your work in your office chair or whatever, you're going to get tired of that really quick. You're going to develop some back problems. But if we look at Cocytus here, I mean, this guy, once again, has everything you'd want in a seat. So, in my humble opinion, I'd say that Cocytus has a better seat. But honestly, I was just blown away by how Cocytus even wanted to be sat on. I mean, that didn't even cross my mind. And I read the light novel. I mean, seeing it on the screen was simply baffling. So fast forward, they start their journey to the Dwarven Kingdom. And I guess one gripe I have with the Overlord anime is the fact that they're rushing things on scene. Because in the light novel, I mean, these things were all detailed out, right? So there was pages, chapters dedicated to explaining the things that go in, about explaining characters, their thoughts, etc. And obviously you can't transfer that over to the anime, but I felt like there could have been more scenes added. For example, it seemed to gloss over the journey to the Dwarven Kingdom, when in the light novel, this was viewed as a hard journey. And then, especially when we get to the Dwarven Kingdom, when we meet the dwarf called Gondo in the actual caverns, we just kind of meet him and he's like any other side character, but in the light novel, it expands on it, right? So we see the world through his perspective, and I feel like that could have been added in because I feel it was a good detail and it made the character feel more special. So then Gondo meets Ainz, and Ainz listens to his story. And as Gondo is talking, I can't help but notice that Ainz and Aura are standing directly behind Gondo, and he just met these two people, right? He just met this undead king, and he's so accepting. Now, in the light novel, it's explained that he has to get used to it, and he wasn't really trusting at first, but in the anime, they kind of glossed over it again. So when Gondo is done speaking, we exit the cavern, and we meet up with Shaltir and the rest of the group. And Shaltir basically says that there's a bunch of enemies detected, and the dwarf explains that these are the Kogoya. These are essentially the reason why the dwarves moved away from this city and they abandoned it. And then Ainz says, capture all of them, Shaltir. And this is where the second most funny moment of the episode happens. I just want to say this, okay? In the light novel, these Kogoya were described as beastmen that were mole-like, all right? Now look at what's on the screen right now and tell me where the mole is. Please tell me where the mole is. All right. The only thing mole you could say about this creature, which is not even shown a lot, is the fact its claws are kind of like moles, but there's like no mole resemblance. These look like a cosplay convention for a bunch of furries. I'm not going to lie to you. That's what I thought when I initially looked at this army, so to speak. I thought it was a dance party between a bunch of furries. I'm not going to lie to you. These ain't no Kogoya mole-like beastmen. Shaltir captures all of these Kogoya by essentially just saying mass hold species 4 times, which was honestly a flex. I mean, she just said that, and then she went into this building and they started attacking her and stuff, and she's like, so they can't even hurt me. All right, mass hold species. And then they were all captured. Then Ainz says, now it's up to Shaltir to extract the data from these Kogoya, and the main leader of the Kogoya is like, you're not going to extract any data from me, I'm ready to die, etc. You're not going to be able to do that. Shaltir is like, alright, charm species. Man says, alright, what do you want to know, friend? I'll tell you absolutely anything. Yes, we're attacking this dwarven city, and we found a way over the great chasm. I mean, it was funny, the switch from I'll never tell you anything to, oh, what do you want to know, friend? And that's essentially where this episode ends off. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, I read almost every comment, and subscribe for similar content in the future. I will see you in the next video.